the night the world changed. April 26, 1986. At 1:23 a.m., the city of Pripyat was asleep. Just a few kilometers away, inside the Chernobyl Nuclear Power Plant, Reactor No. 4 was undergoing a safety test. Within seconds, everything went terribly wrong. A massive explosion destroyed the reactor, released radioactive material into the atmosphere, and created one of the worst nuclear disasters in human history. But Chernobyl was more than just an explosion. It was a story of a dangerous reactor design, human error, secrecy, sacrifice, and thousands of lives changed forever. And even today, 40 years later, the remains of Reactor No. 4 are still being monitored. This is the story of the night Chernobyl changed the world forever. Construction of the Chernobyl Nuclear Power Plant began in the 1970s. The Soviet Union saw the plant as a symbol of technological progress and energy independence. 4 RBMK reactors powered the facility, while the nearby city of Pripyat was built for the workers and their families. Pripyat was a modern Soviet city. It had wide streets, schools, parks, hospitals, sports facilities, and even an amusement park. From the outside, it looked like a model city of the future. But hidden inside Reactor No. 4 was a serious weakness. The RBMK reactor design had dangerous characteristics at low power levels, and its control rod system could temporarily increase reactivity under certain conditions. These weaknesses would become critical on that night in the spring of 1986. On the night of April 25th, engineers prepared a safety test. The goal was simple. If the plant suddenly lost external power, could the spinning turbine generate enough electricity to keep the cooling pumps running until the emergency diesel generators came online? The test had already been postponed several times. Eventually, it was moved to the night shift. As preparations continued, reactor power dropped far below the intended level. The reactor became increasingly unstable. The operators attempted to increase power by withdrawing most of the control rods, putting the reactor into a dangerous operating condition. Then, at approximately 1:23 a.m., the test began. Almost immediately, the reactor began behaving unexpectedly. Power rose rapidly. The emergency shutdown button was pressed. Within seconds, the situation became uncontrollable. At approximately 1:23:44 a.m., a massive steam explosion tore apart Reactor No. 4. A second explosion followed. The enormous reactor structure was destroyed. The roof was ripped apart, the core was exposed, and radioactive material was scattered into the surrounding environment. The graphite moderator caught fire. For the people inside the plant, the scale of the disaster was almost impossible to understand. This was not an ordinary industrial fire. They were standing next to a destroyed nuclear reactor, and some of the first people sent into the disaster had no idea how much radiation they were being exposed to. The firefighters arrived within minutes. They were told there was a fire at the plant, but they were not prepared for what they were actually about to face. They climbed onto the roofs and fought the burning debris while radioactive material surrounded them. Some of the debris they encountered was extremely radioactive. Many of these firefighters received very high doses of radiation that night. Some died within weeks from acute radiation syndrome. They became the first victims of a disaster whose true scale was being hidden from the world. But the danger was only beginning. The people of Pripyat continued with their normal lives. Children played outside. Families walked through the city. People watched the strange glow coming from the direction of the plant, but they could not see the radiation surrounding them. Soviet authorities did not immediately reveal the scale of the accident. Then, hundreds of kilometers away, something happened. Workers at a nuclear facility in Sweden detected unusually high radiation levels. Radiation had spread across Europe. The world was beginning to realize that something had happened at Chernobyl. The Soviet Union could no longer completely hide the disaster. Approximately 36 hours after the explosion, the evacuation of Pripyat began. Approximately 50,000 people were ordered to leave the city. They were told to take only what they needed for a short absence. Many believed they would return within a few days. They never did. Pripyat became a ghost city. Now, one of the largest cleanup operations in human history began. Hundreds of thousands of people became involved in the response. They became known as the liquidators. Soldiers, firefighters, engineers, miners, helicopter crews, construction workers, and volunteers were sent into the contaminated area. Some workers were given only minutes to carry out extremely dangerous tasks. Highly radioactive pieces of graphite had to be removed from the roof of the destroyed reactor. Machines were used whenever possible, but radiation damaged or disabled some of the equipment. Eventually, people had to enter places where machines could not go. They would go inside, work for a short time, and then come back out. These people were fighting an invisible enemy: radiation. The destroyed Reactor No. 4 had to be contained. Workers built a massive concrete and steel structure around the remains. This structure became known as the sarcophagus. It was constructed rapidly under extremely dangerous conditions, but everyone knew it was not a permanent solution. Over the years, the structure deteriorated. Cracks appeared. Water leaked inside, and large amounts of radioactive fuel-containing material remained inside. A new solution was needed. That solution eventually became the new safe confinement. A massive steel arch was constructed beside the damaged reactor and then moved over the old sarcophagus. The structure is enormous and was designed to reduce the spread of radioactive dust and allow the remains of Reactor No. 4 to be studied more safely. For the first time since 1986, scientists and engineers could examine what remained inside under much more controlled conditions. But Chernobyl was still not simply a dead ruin. Inside the reactor were materials created during the meltdown. Molten nuclear fuel had mixed with concrete, sand, structural materials, and other substances. When this mixture cooled, it formed glass-like masses known as fuel-containing materials. One of the most famous formations became known as the elephant's foot. It looked like a large, dark, wrinkled mass. In the years following the accident, approaching it was extremely dangerous. And even today, this material continues to slowly change under the effects of radiation. Inside Chernobyl, scientists continue to monitor neutron activity in areas containing the remains of the reactor fuel. Changes in moisture and water movement can affect these measurements. This does not mean that Reactor No. 4 is going to explode again. It does not mean that another disaster on the scale of 1986 is about to happen. Today, the Chernobyl exclusion zone remains largely abandoned. The buildings of Pripyat are slowly collapsing. Trees are growing through abandoned apartments. The famous amusement park seems frozen in time. But something unexpected happened here. As humans largely disappeared from the region, nature returned. Wolves, deer, wild horses, birds, and many other species began living throughout the area. Scientists continue to study the long-term effects of radiation and nature's ability to reclaim abandoned environments. But Pripyat remains a warning. A city built to represent the future became a monument to one of humanity's greatest technological disasters. At 1:23 a.m. on April 26, 1986, Reactor No. 4 was destroyed. But the consequences of that moment did not end when the fire was extinguished. They continued through the evacuation of Pripyat, through the lives of the liquidators, through the construction of the sarcophagus, through the massive steel arch standing over the remains today. And deep beneath it all, radioactive material continues to change. Chernobyl is not simply the story of a nuclear reactor. It is a story about what happens when technology, human error, dangerous design, and secrecy collide. And perhaps the greatest lesson is the simplest one. A disaster does not end when the explosion is over. Sometimes its consequences last for generations. Chernobyl is still there, not as a monument to the power of technology, but as a warning about the responsibility that comes with it.